Historical Society of Frederick County. This is our learning lunch for October that features genealogy specific to Frederick County in Maryland. And this learning lunch program is sponsored by our Archives and Research Center, and about 90% of patrons use the Research Center for genealogical research. So what better topic to draw attention to the Historical Society than a topic on genealogy? And our speaker today is someone I know very well, and actually someone who taught me everything I know about genealogy. He's a professional genealogist, and he's been doing genealogical research for longer than I've been alive, about 40 years. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bob Houghton.
We eat our lunch?
Yes, please feel free to eat your lunches and drink your drinks. There's restrooms in the back here. However, I prefer that you use the restrooms that are downstairs. If you need to use them, just ask the person at the reception desk or one of us as you exit. Okay? So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Bob Houghton.
Somebody bring you lunch?
Yeah.
Gil? Okay. I'm not a public speaker. I'm very comfortable in libraries, I'm very comfortable in courthouses, but I was asked to do this, so can everybody hear me? Okay. Well, good afternoon. First of all, let me thank you for attending this event today. The reason I say that is several weeks ago I was asked to participate in a lecture in conjunction with the Historical Society down in Buckeystown. The topic of interest at the time was Civil War genealogy. It was several weeks ago, and nobody showed up. So I kept thinking, well, maybe genealogy is dead. But I'm a full-time genealogist, and I can tell you genealogy is alive and well in Frederick County. Today's topic is Genealogy 101. But before I get started, how many of you are just getting started researching your families? Oh, good. There's a lot of stuff there that wasn't there when I got started over 40 years ago. So I assume the rest of you have been doing this for a while. That's fantastic. Now, my personal family research started in the early 70s and has transcended over the years to both the days before and after the advent of the internet. When I first became interested in documenting my own family's ancestry, I got together with an old senior genealogist here in Frederick County. Her name is Leah Spade. Leah is still alive and well. She lives up in Wolfsville area in Middletown Valley. And when I got talking to Leah, I said, Leah, this is really starting to interest me. I said, what should I do? And her words to me were, and I'll quote, get out before you get in. And you really have to know Leah to understand her. She's sort of like a marshmallow that's been put into a fire and allowed to burn. She's a little crusty on the outside, but she's soft and gooey on the inside. She's very giving and so forth. I wasn't sure what she meant, but it didn't take long for me to realize that this is a very addictive hobby. For me, I spent many years doing my own research. Then for 20 years, I started doing research for others on a part-time basis while I was still working full-time. And then about 10 years ago, I gave up a nice job in the biodefense industry working here in Frederick, and basically said, the heck with it, I'm going to do genealogy full-time. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, and I don't regret that decision. Of course, I spend every morning sitting outside drinking coffee, thinking about what I'm going to do every day as my wife gets in the car and goes off to work. And she's not quite, doesn't have the same sentiment as I do about genealogy or my decision to do what I'm doing. I couldn't do anything else. So when I first got started with genealogy many years ago, I felt it was best to start out by asking relatives, living relatives, what they already knew about the family. I was very blessed because I shared the first 37 years of my life with my great-grandmother, my maternal great-grandmother. Her name is Cora Rice She was born in 1892, and probably from the time I was an infant to I was well into my teens, I spent every Friday night at her house. And slept over with her, slept in the same bed with her. And she was a phenomenal storyteller. She would tell me all these stories about the family. So I got hooked at a very early age. And she had 8 surviving siblings. And she lived in Frederick, but many of her relatives lived in the Mountain Dale area of Frederick County. And so we would spend Sundays going up to visit the relatives, sitting on the porch. And they'd all say, "Hey, do you remember so-and-so when so-and-so happened?" And they'd share all these stories, and they were just, a lot of them were just funny stories. A lot of them were family ghost stories. I mean, it was just a very wonderful time in my life to be able to share these precious moments with these people. Before my great-grandmother got married in 1911, she lived in a 3-generational house up in Mountain Dale. With her 8 siblings, all born between 1888 and 1907. Her 2 parents were born during the Civil War, and her paternal grandfather, who was born in 1826. And all these people in their own right were storytellers. And so my great-grandmother and her siblings remembered all these family stories, and they just passed them on down to me. And at first, starting in the 70s, I started to write these things down. And I just couldn't write fast enough. So then I got smart and started using a cassette tape recorder. And so I started tape recording these people. And then finally, when camcorders came out later on in the 80s, several of these people were still with us. And I would sit them down in the living room of their homes, set up a camcorder on them, and videotape them telling these same stories. Just recently, I took these same tapes and I converted them over to CDs, and I still watch it because every now and then I forget a story, and now, well, I'm not sorry, to DVDs. So now I pop the DVD into the player, and I'll watch these people telling these stories, and now all these people are long gone. But they were just wonderful memories that I have of these people, and now I have them both in cassette and in audio visual. Each time that they would tell me these stories, they would embellish certain things, and it was just fun listening to these people. And what I decided to do a number of years ago was to publish this information. And I'm going to publish my family genealogies, and that's a lifelong venture for me. Probably to the day I die, I'll be publishing my family. So for my great-grandmother's father, which was the Rice family, I published in 2008 and again in 2012 the Rice family genealogy. Now, this is just one volume of 2. It contains 1,400 pages. It's got about 100 photographs. Then last year, I published my great-grandmother's mother's side, which was the Wiles family of Frederick County. This is one volume of 4, 2,500 pages. Again, roughly 100 photographs. So it was very important when I did this that the information that I was publishing was all based on primary sources. Now, those primary sources include birth, baptism, marriage, death, burial, census, Bible, as well as military records. I also went to the courthouse. I pulled wills, administration accounts, chancery or equity court records, as well as land records. I used all that information to put together a piece of the puzzle. Where were these people at? Where did they live? What did they do? All that information was completely described in the books. In fact, with my Rice family book, I even included the ghost stories that the family had told me on tape. I had put that on the cassette tape back in the early 70s, and I listened to the cassettes, and then transcribed all that information, and then I put that into the book as well. So it's just fun to be able to look back and say, these people knew all this stuff. And I'm talking about people going back, being born in the 1820s. And it was just for me, it was just a phenomenal experience. When I first started out, like I said, many years ago, I spent countless hours at what was then known as the Historical Society Library, which was located up on the 3rd floor, as well as I would spend time at Seaforest Library. Back then, there wasn't a lot of material published. Most of the information that I was looking for was on microfilm. Some of it had been transcribed, but very little of it had been published. I would just go, and we're talking about microfilm, census records, church records. These are not records that have been indexed like published records are today. I would just scan it to the point where my eyes were basically rolling in the back of my head. And it was just an interesting experience. As time went on, then more and more records became published or transcribed. And that just made life so much easier as far as doing research. Sadly, I'd have to say that as the number of records increased at our local library level, the number of records at the courthouse decreased. And the reason being is the courthouses have a finite amount of space. And I do research, or I used to do a lot of research through Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, D.C., West Virginia. It's kind of contracted my range as I've gotten a little older. But everywhere I've gone, I've run into the issue of when I'm looking for a particular record, I can't find it. And I'll ask, where's that record? Well, we sent it off to the archives. Or we threw it away. And I said, what do you mean you throw it away? Well, in my lifetime, at Frederick County Courthouse, for example, we used to have what they call the equity or chancery records. These are equity or chancery means equitable distribution of assets. These would be adoption records. This would be full divorce records. This would be records for if there was a dispute in a will and a judge had to make a ruling on how they were going to distribute the assets of the decedent in the family. An equity court or chancery court would make that decision. Well, those records used to be kept at the courthouse, and then I went in one day and lo and behold, they were gone. And I asked, where are they? Well, we don't have any room for them anymore. I says, okay, what'd you do with them? Oh, we sent those to the archives. I says, okay, so now I've got to deal with the archives to get copies of those records. So I also went over to the Register of Wills office. Now, what was little well known in Frederick County is there was a period of time from the 1930s through parts of the 1980s where if somebody died in Frederick County, the Frederick County Health Department was required to send a record of that death to the Register of Wills office, and they were maintained in a large ledger. I knew about it. They weren't kept out in front. They were kept back in a vault. So it was one of those sort of like secret records that people really didn't know about. And I went in to do some research with those records one day, and I asked, will you please pull the records from the back for me? Everybody at the courthouse knows me, and I know about the courthouse. And they basically said, I can't pull those records. I said, why not? He says, oh, we decided a couple weeks ago to throw them away. I said, throw them away? I said, why would you throw away such valuable records? These are records about the deaths of people here in Frederick County. Well, we just made that decision. It was an arbitrary decision. It was made. So, fortunately, Margaret Myers, who was his name you'll hear a couple times today, who was Frederick County's premier genealogist until she passed away 3 years ago, she was able to connive a copy of those records. And I was able to connive a copy of her copy. So I have them at home as well. And Margaret's copies are buried in boxes here at the Historical Society, which I'll touch on a little later. I won't go into that right now. But and this is not an unusual thing. I found other records, marriage records, what we call marriage receipts, that were put out to be thrown away, sent to the landfill back in 1981 when the courthouse moved from its previous location, which is now City Hall, to its new location on Patrick Street. And they just put bags and bags and bags of these old marriage receipts out to be thrown away. Well, one of the employees, who happened to be a genealogist, decided to save 2 of these bags. And they're original documents. There's close to 4,000, 5,000 of them. I can't remember the number anymore. And she had them, and she never did anything with them. Well, I negotiated with her to give them to me. So I had them for a number of years, and then I used them. Then within the last year, I donated them here to the Historical Society. So they're a wealth of information, original information on marriages for a certain period of time in Frederick County. We're lucky to have what records we do at the courthouse. If you go to the courthouse and you look at land records, and if you look at wills, and if you look at letters of administration, these are photocopies of the original documents. If you go to other counties that are neighboring to us, Montgomery County, one of the richest counties in the United States, or you go to Adams County, Pennsylvania, neighboring counties, their records are on microfiche. And trying to pull the records and try to make a readable copy of these records from microfiche is darn near impossible. When you make copies of the records that we have here in Frederick County, they are nice, crisp, clean copies. So we are lucky to have that. Why the other counties have not done that, I don't know. But again, a lot of it is an issue of shelf space. How much shelf space can you afford? How much do you really want to devote to these records? And so forth. One of the other things that I liked is that the mission of this institution evolved over time. When I first got into genealogy many years ago, a lot of the information that was available was really focused towards Richmond County. As time went on, that changed, and they started to acquire published genealogical records for all of Maryland, all of the counties, which is very important because we all came from somewhere. And many of the early English, Irish immigrants in Frederick County started out in southern Maryland and worked their way up through St. Mary's County, Anne Arundel County, Prince George's County, worked their way into southern Frederick County. Before that, you had the migration of Europeans, predominantly Germans, who were coming in from Germany and other countries in Europe. They were coming into Philadelphia, and they were migrating along the migration path from Philadelphia into Frederick County. I was asked a few years ago, what could the research center, as we are known now as the library, what could we do to enhance our genealogical collection? So my suggestion was, we've got all of southern Maryland covered. We don't have much with regards to the migration counties along the migration trail in Pennsylvania. So basically, I came up with a wish list of publications that were available for counties like Philadelphia, Montgomery, Berks, Bucks, Chester, Lancaster, York, Adams. These are all counties in southern Pennsylvania that were on the migration trail. And happily, everything that I put on my list, they purchased. It was nice. They had money back. I also purchased some of my own things, and over the years I've donated a few things that they didn't have in their collection. Now, where we've really enhanced things since in the last 3 years is, sadly, with the passing of Margaret Myers, the provision of her will was that all of her collection come here. Margaret started when she was 16 years old, never got married. She, in her words, she ran a man named Krieger, who was funeral director up in Fairmont. He provided her with records. She wouldn't marry him because she did not want to get off focus from doing research. And she was just a phenomenal woman. She was a walking computer all the way up until she died. And one of the things that she had left us was her database of approximately 200,000 names that are pertaining primarily to Frederick County. Now, her database was a collage of information that included her research, my research of at least one other person I know named by the name of Mediator, and probably a few other local genealogists. So it's a phenomenal database. I have a copy of it. Margaret gave me a copy of her database. They have a copy of the database downstairs. So whenever I do research or somebody comes in here asking about a family name, the first thing I do is I go to the database and I say, oh, okay, yeah, I have something for you, and we kind of go from there. I was also fortunate enough, along with one other person here at Hill House, to be one of 4 people to have the opportunity to clean out Margaret Myers' home, because she had left everything, all of her genealogical information, to the Historical Society. Well, I don't have an example of one of those boxes, but it's a box by Yai. It took us 450 of those, approximately 450 of those boxes to clean out her basement and first floor of all of her genealogical information. So we packed them all up. We tried to identify the best we could with labels on the front as to what type of information was in each box. And the boxes first went to an off-site storage area near Spectrum Drive near Francis Scott Key Mall. So we hauled them to this off-site storage. Then last year, Gil and I and whoever, we brought them here, and they're next door in the old bookstore. And the staff in the research center has been slowly processing each box, going through, identifying what's in each one, databasing that information, and whenever possible, if it's new information that does not exist so far that's valuable to Frederick County research, it's been put on the shelves downstairs. So that's just been a wonderful addition to our collection, and I just wish Margaret would still be here with us. But one of the other things Margaret used to do was she collect church records for Frederick County and other counties. Well, so do I. And Margaret and I would horse trade records that I could get access to as compared to records that she had access to maybe 20 or 30 years before I even thought about getting into it. So she had a phenomenal collection that existed nowhere else at her house. I can honestly say I have the largest collection now of private church records, because I have records that even Margaret didn't have, and I didn't have a chance to horse trade with her when she was still with us. So I have records where I've negotiated with pastors of churches where I'm allowed to use copies of original church records for genealogical purposes, as long as I don't donate those records to a library facility. They're just strictly for my research purposes only. So it's a substantial collection at this point. What I wanted to do as well, still have some time, was to focus a few minutes on on genealogical software. How many of you are using some sort of genealogical software to document your family trees and family history? That's good. I would highly recommend, whenever possible, put as much information into a genealogical database, because at some point that information is going to have to be passed down to somebody else. And it's so much easier if it's in a structured format versus if somebody happens to pass away and they inherit 450 boxes of information that you don't know what to do. Right. That you don't know what to do with. There's a number of genealogical programs out there. If you go by the hype of what they say, the largest selling genealogical software is Family Tree Maker. Family Tree Maker? Okay. I use Family Tree Maker. I use Family Tree Maker edition 2005. There's a 2012 out. Would I use the 2012? The answer is no, personally. The important thing about the decision on what software to use is based on a number of factors. One of them is ease of which you can enter your data, your vital information, your birth, your baptisms, your marriage, and so forth. Also on what type of reports that you want to generate, be it what they call a descendants report, where you're starting with the earliest ancestor and you're following down to modern times. That's the nature of my books. I always start with the person who came in off the boat in Philadelphia, and I have all the descendants of that person. Or you can create a report called an ancestral report, where you're starting with yourself and you're going back in time through your parents, your grandparents, great-grandparents, and so forth. It all depends on the format. Again, it's just personal preference. Like I said, I use Family Tree Maker. Margaret Myers used to use a program called Generations. Generations is no longer available. But for her, it worked just like Family Tree Maker 2005 works for me. It's easier to use. It generates the reports that I want. The other nice thing is that most of these programs will do this. You can create a book. My books that I showed you were all generated in the program Family Tree Maker. I told the program to create an introduction, what kind of reports. I could import photographs, scanned images, straight text, stories, and so forth. All that can be done, and that's the flexibility of the software today. I talked to another friend of mine, a volunteer here in the research center downstairs by the name of Brian Main. I said, Brian, what are you using? And he's using software called Roots Magic, or Personal Ancestral File, which is software that comes through the Mormon Church. So again, it comes down to personal preference. I don't endorse one. I don't slam any of them in particular. I've seen most softwares, and they all basically do the same thing. It's just what you become comfortable with. Yeah.
I have 2012.
Yeah.
And I have an earlier version. I don't think it's as old as 2005, but I'm curious to know why you would stay away from 12.
Starting around 6 or 7, they had a bug in the software. And they had to quickly come out with 8 or 9, and I forget which one. I have a neighbor that has 2012. She's just getting into genealogy. We loaded it in. The amount of information that you can enter in a given field in a given amount of time, and you got a massive amount of information to enter. I find that in 2005 you can enter more information faster than you can with the 2012. And when I talked to Brian Main, he also had 2012 Family Tree Maker, and he walked away from it for the same reason. Yes.
As a woman of color trying to do this research, who's had ancestry of African Native
Right.
and European American, I find those data systems or those programs limited in their definition of what family is. I think there's some cultural differences there
Yeah.
that don't honor my experience or my heritage.
Right.
So I'm wondering if there's some other program out there you could recommend that would be more inclusive of half siblings and multiple marriages and or liaisons between interracial couplings that I may know about but may not be slotted. I mean, you could keep records.
Right. Right. I can't think of any one particular software that is unique to your situation. They're all. I mean, you can always
Adapt.
Right. And every time they come out with a new edition of a software, obviously they're trying to get you to buy something new, and they've added a new bell or whistle to their software. And in my opinion, the more bells and whistles that they've added to the complexity of use. I'm a simple guy, and I'd rather have a simple means of doing data entry that's still going to generate the exact kind of reports that I want than something that's so complicated that I've got to go get a manual or get somebody to teach even me how to use the thing or get customer support.
So what I'm hearing you say then is take something that's already existing and adapt it to my purposes.
Right.
That's what I've been doing, but I was wondering.
There's nothing specific yet. You're just going to have to adapt. Yeah.
I haven't used Family Tree Maker 2012 very much. But the thing I like about it is you can download original records, like census records and things like that. Is there another alternative program that kind of does the search, allows you to download original records?
I'm not sure if Roots Magic will do that or not. We'll probably have to talk to Brian Main about that because he's really hung up on Roots Magic, and he's really fished around using different softwares, of the latest versions of various different softwares. I just find that the 2005 works fine for me, and yes, I still have to scan and import image files and so forth into.
You can still do that in 2005.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's no problem there.
You have contact information. How do you spell Brian's last name?
It's M-A-I-N.
Yeah.
And if you need to get a hold of them, he volunteers here every other Saturday. I can't tell you exactly which Saturday that is at this point. So if you get a hold of me, I can forward along his information.
Either the first or the third Saturdays. So.
But it's every other Saturday or something.
Yeah.
It's the old volunteer contact.
What is it? The first and third Saturday?
That's when I volunteer.
And Brian's here usually, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
Sometimes. And I bring up about the Family Tree Maker 2005. You can get a brand new copy of this on eBay. A guy in England has about 70 copies of it or something like that. And it's fairly reasonable shipping, less than $10, and I think the program is charging like less than $20 for it.
Yeah. This is just a personal preference of mine. Like I said, Margaret Myers was really hung up on Generations. I tried to use Generations. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was as user-friendly as Family Tree Maker at the time. But everybody has their own quirks. My quirk is I have what works. It's totally compatible with Windows 7, so I don't have operating system issues with using 7-year-old software, things like that. Yes, ma'am.
This doesn't have anything to do with the software, but it's on this page.
I'm going to talk about that page.
Yeah, wait.
Yes, just wait. If you just wait 1 second, I'm going to introduce that page.
Okay.
Okay? All right, I gave you all a handout. Being the chief guy that I am, does everybody have a handout? No handout? Being the chief guy that I am, if I have a choice between doing research for free versus having to pay for something, I'm going to do it for free. So what I did was, I'll give you a double-sided page. First side says free, and there's 10 websites that I commonly use, and I'm going to go through each one of them quickly. The first one is findagrave.com. This is a spectacular website. It's got about 87 million grave markers on it, and/or genealogical information related to the burials and deaths of 87 million people. Again, it's free. It's just wonderful. You can actually go out there and download the images. If you find a grave marker of a relative who lives in Illinois or whatever, and the marker's there, you can download the image, copy and print it, enter it into your own database. So it's a really nice website. The second one is the National Park Service Civil War Soldiers and Sailors Regiment and Unit Database. This is strictly Civil War. You punch in a name, it will give you a list of people whose name can match your name, and you look for, if you know they were Marylanders, and then you want to focus on Maryland and what regiments and what units that they have served. Very nice database. Several years ago, they put out online the information from Ellis Island. Not all of this. My relatives have been in Frederick County since 1732, so I had nobody who came in through Ellis Island. Ellis Island didn't exist as a port of entry when my relatives came in Frederick County. But a lot of people had relatives that came in much later. If they came in through Ellis Island, that information has been databased, and through this website you can track their arrival dates and some valuable information, where they lived and so forth from there. The next website, number 4, is one of many websites that's buried in the Maryland State Archives website. I'm not sure if any of you have used the Maryland State Archives website. I'm sorry, I've been using it ever since it came out, and I'm still confused. There's just so many layers. Trying to get to what you're looking for can be confusing. I ultimately, in some situations, I got a toll-free number. I call them up and say, where the devil do I find so-and-so? Because I can't find it. So this particular website that I'm citing are actual original land surveys for Frederick County. These are the patents that were issued for Frederick County. A lot of them dating to the 1730s, 1740s, 50s, and so forth. These are actual images. So if you trace back your property all the way back, if you own a piece of property in Frederick County, land, whatever, and you track it back as far as you can to when it was originally, the patent was issued on it, you may find the original images of that patent on this website. Yeah.
Is there a searchable index to that, or do people need the patent number or the deed number?
What you need, there is a field on there that says description. And what they're asking you for is, if you go to any Frederick County deed, older deed, it'll give you a tract name. Okay, like, for example, for my Wiles ancestor who came in, he named his tract when he got a patent on it, he called it Wiles Ending. So I go to the description field of this website and type in the word Wiles Ending, and sure enough, there are 6 pages of the original patent that show up, and you can print those out. Again, it's free. Okay, not free. The next one is also a website that's buried in the Maryland State Archives website. It's a searchable map of Maryland. Now, these are maps primarily of the late 1850s, 1860s era, and a collage of them have been put together for the entire state of Maryland. It includes the 1858 Isaac Bond map. We have a copy of the original down on the wall downstairs. And these maps show the property sites of the original owner, or people who own those properties at those particular times when the maps were created. So you can you can click on Frederick County, you can click on the election district, and the map will come up. It's beautiful, it's in color, and you can search around, and actually there's a search function on there. You can actually type in the name of the person that you're looking for and search that way to see where these people actually lived in Frederick County at that particular time. And it's not just Frederick County, it's Washington County, it covers the entire state. Very wonderful site.
So Isaac Bond was a photographer?
Isaac Bond was a map maker. So, and like I said, it's just a wonderful site. The next one is Roots Web, and one particular link is what they call it, Early Frederick County, Washington County, Carroll County Court, and Other Records. This is a very great site. They've been adding stuff to this for years. It's got the index to the equity records that I mentioned. It also has marriage records for Frederick County that go beyond what had been published. Margaret Myers published the marriage records for Frederick County from 1778 to 1865. They've got 1865 to 1886 for the males done. They want to continue to do more and more and put it on their website. And again, this is just free. The other website is Roots Web, which in itself is a great source of family tree information that's free, that you don't have to pay for, like you would if you had Ancestry.com. The only thing I caution about any time that you're dealing with family trees, this is information that does not cite primary sources for the most part. In some cases it does, but for the most part it does not cite where they got their information. So, and you'll see where there's a number of these family trees that will cite the same information. In many cases the information is probably correct. But I can tell you from 40-some years of research, there's a lot of stuff out there that's just wrong. And you have people copying and pasting pieces of one tree from one family to another, and they're just replicating errors. So I always take family tree information off the internet as it is what it is. It's a good reference point, but I don't say, well, it's got to be true because it's out there on the internet. You know, anything can go out on the internet. So, but this is a good free site. FamilySearch.org is the LDS website. Very good website. They have family tree information. They have church records, especially going back to Germany and all over Europe. And what they do is they have citations to reference you to the original sources, which are microfilm, which is kept in Salt Lake City. So if you find a record for a relative or who you think is a relative, you can use that reference number, go to your local LDS library, say, I'd like to order that. They will order it for you and have it sent from Salt Lake City, and it will be sent to your local LDS library, which has microfilm readers. You can go scan through it, find the original records, print them out. It costs 25 cents or whatever. Wonderful.
What do you think about the accuracy of that particular database?
I'm sorry?
What do you think about the accuracy and
reliability of the Mormon one?
Better than most, because they're really into documenting their sources. So I would highly recommend them over, say, Roots Web or even Ancestry.com in a lot of cases.
I got a lot of information, from the live journals website about that charting and so forth. And I'm not really sure, how reliable it would be.
Did it cite a reference number to microfilm and stuff like that?
I guess so. I don't really know how to read all that.
Okay. Best thing to do is take the reference number and go to the local LDS library, which is off of Patrick Street. Show them what you have them order up the film. It doesn't cost anything. Then they're the nicest people to deal with. I mean, they bend over backwards to help people, especially those who are just getting started into genealogy, or even advanced people like myself. So I would strongly recommend going to an LDS library if it cites a source to where to get original records. Because, like I said, I'm all about original records. It's important to me that you document your primary sources, not somebody else's research that you do yourself. To me, that's what's important. And finally, the last one that I have on my list as far as free is Heritage Quest Online, which is basically census, another source of census records, free census records, Revolutionary War pensions, and original images of pension records, as well as other records. The only stipulation for Heritage Quest is that you need a public library card and enter in your library card number. So, very nice. Before Ancestry.com ever came around, I was using this extensively for census. It was easy to type in a name, and it was easy to find the people that I was looking for. Then on the back, those that you have to pay for. And of course at the top is Ancestry.com. Ancestry.com is out there to make money. At one time I was associated with Ancestry.com. If you go to Ancestry.com's website, up on the main page they have a link that says Hire an Expert. Well, when they started this Hire an Expert, they contacted me and other genealogists and say, hey, we would like you to basically subcontract and work for us. So what they would do is they would get queries from all over the world for research to be done in Frederick County. They would contact me, I'd do the research, I'd send the research to Ancestry.com, and they would get paid by the client. I got 90%, they got 10%, or I got 85%, and Ancestry got 15%, and that's just the way it worked out. And it was a good relationship for about a year and a half. And then they decided to send us, all of us, an email saying, we're not going to do the Hire an Expert this way anymore. Never explained. So then 6 months to a year later, Hire an Expert link came alive again. So what they have now is they've contracted with one company that's in Salt Lake City. It's called Pro Genealogist. And they are the sole expert for Ancestry.com. And the problem is they're based in Salt Lake City. They charge $65 to $135 an hour for research. I was charging $20. I still charge $20. So I guess they're making money. I don't know. I guess they weren't making enough money with people like me. So, but Ancestry.com is an excellent site. It has census, military, family trees, birth, baptisms, marriage, death, immigration, tax, and various other records that are easily accessible. But it is by subscription. Fortunately, we have a subscription to the website here at the Research Center, so if you do come in and need to do some research, you're more than welcome to use our computers downstairs.
You can also use it for free in the library.
And the Seaverse Library. Right.
Does the one here have European or world section, the one they charge more money for?
No.
No, the public library has that. They
Yeah.
also have a variety of other databases like Heritage Quest.
Right. The next one is newspaperarchive.com. Again, this is one that we have a subscription to. It's a wonderful site. My family is Frederick County. They've got all the Frederick news posts, which originally was called the Daily News, starting in 1883 all the way up through about 1905, 1906, or 2005, 2006. They're a couple years behind on trying to keep up with scanning and putting all these online, but it's a wonderful resource. I do a lot of research in Washington County. I do it from home because early Washington County records, newspapers are also online, as well as newspapers from various counties in Maryland, all the different 52 states, and also a number of countries throughout the world. So it's a very nice site. And again, you can access that from here as well. One of the newer sites that's out there is called Fold 3. I'm not sure if everybody's heard of that. The Fold 3 is a site that is trying to put images of as many military records online as possible, from the Revolutionary War straight on up through the Vietnam War. So if you're looking for military records, it's a good place to look. Unfortunately, we don't have a subscription to that here. It is an excellent site. The next one I'm listing is Maryland State Archives in itself, because that is the excellent source for birth and baptism, or birth and death records, certificates and so forth. And it has many records. Of course, you can contact them by email, or you can call them. Ultimately, you have to fill out a form. It's going to cost you $25 to $35 per document, depending upon what type of document that you're receiving from them. Minimum of 6 weeks. If you live in Maryland, you may know that we're a balanced budget state, which means that we have to do something to balance our budget every year. And unfortunately, what they've done in the past is to balance the budget, they've cut resources at the Maryland State Archives. They've actually fired staff that have been there for years. So the turnaround time to get documents out of the Maryland State Archives just grows and grows and grows. Your only other recourse is to drive to Annapolis yourself. You can easily ask for assistance. Copies are $1 a page, I believe, if you're so inclined to drive to Annapolis. I personally am not. I've had countless people ask me to go to Annapolis for them, but it's not cost effective as a researcher for me to drive from Frederick to Annapolis to make a copy of a birth certificate and come home. And, what am I going to charge this person? Yes.
It's my understanding that Frederick County will not allow you to have a copy of a birth certificate of someone else. Is that right?
You have to be family.
How close a family? Like my brother-in-law, for example.
You won't let you have your brother-in-law?
Well, I don't know. I just read in the paper. See, my brother-in-law was my sister-in-law's accident.
Right.
And nobody in the family knows who his father is. I mean, when this boy was born, of course he's dead now, but when he was born, the next child was 11 years old. So then there were 8 other children, older. Some of those 8 children had to know who the father of this
Present
child
yourself as a sister and just tell them it's your brother, not your brother-in-law. They wouldn't know.
I don't even want a copy. I just want to look at it. I want to see if the father's on the birth certificate, or if there was an incident of where his name was spelled, his living name was spelled with an apostrophe. And I've never seen a person's name spelled with an apostrophe. And I want to see if that apostrophe was on the birth certificate.
Well, like I said, present yourself as direct family member.
Well, I could send my husband. That's his
No
brother.
problem. Yeah, should be no problem then.
Okay, now convince me.
And lastly, I'm listing the National Archives. National Archives is just a wonderful website. You can order up military records off the website from them if you have unit numbers and company number and all that type of information. So excellent website to gather information from. Well, I was supposed to keep this to 40 minutes with questions. So, does anybody else have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm one of the master docents at Chiverstown Architectural Museum. I started there a couple of years ago, and there's a lot of information here and there in this book and that book on this typewritten page. I run into information by Margaret Myers,
Right.
Rhoda Fogel. I've been researching Maryland Groom. I've been researching here. I'm getting ready to talk to the UCC Church about the Bruner family. But as far as colonial records, I mean, it seems that, you know, when you're talking 1750s, 1750s really.
Right.
Have you experienced that at the Hall of Records in Annapolis? Is there more information there than what I can find here in Frederick County?
If Frederick County was created in 1748, so if we're talking about from 1748 on, the records are going to be here, except for the patent records themselves, which, as I had referenced in my little lecture here, those records can be accessed directly from the Maryland State Archive website, and you just cut them out for free.
Does that include tax records?
Tax records, no. Tax records are tough. A lot of people always ask about tax records. Got an email about tax records yesterday, I believe. And there are tax records. Different counties have dealt with their tax records in different ways. Some of them have kept them. You go to Washington County, if you know John Fry, who works in the Western Maryland room, you'll find out that he has all the original tax records of Washington County stuck it back in his room, and he doesn't tell people about it, but you know, if you know him well enough, you get access to all the original tax records. Frederick County has decided the early stuff should not be here. It was sent off to the archives. People like Margaret Myers went to the archives, accessed many of those records. These are early records, and transcribed those, and a lot of those records have been published in quarterly publication that no longer exists, but we have it downstairs. It's called Western Maryland Genealogy. So the early tax records do show up. In many cases, has been transcribed and published in Western Maryland Genealogy. So I would always look for tax records for Frederick County there. Oh, you know the answer.
Well, do you ever use the State Department of Assessment and Taxation's website for tax search? That is another resource that you can use, but without having a map or parcel number for that property or an actual street address. Can you search for tax records?
I use that website just to check to see how much taxes my neighbors are paying, as that's compared to me. To see if I'm paying the county too much every 1st of July. And those records only go back so far. So, other than being nosy about what my neighbors are paying, you know, I'm dealing with older records that just don't exist on that website. So then I have to either deal with the archives or I have to deal with public or records that have been published.
I just use it to run the deeds back, because it'll have maybe one, or it'll have the current owner of the property and maybe the two previous owners, but then I use another site to run the deeds back from that.